up on the YouTube.
And then we'll start the show here shortly. I think we've from last time, if you recall, we might disappear for about 90 seconds while we're doing the intro stuff. And I know you're not feeling well. If you've got to just take off and you're like, hey, guys, got to run. It was great being here, or screw you guys, I hate you. Either way.
I'm probably good.
Yeah.
I'm good. You guys, let's just have a little fun. We'll go as long as you want to go.
That's awesome, man. We appreciate that. Looks
Perfect.
like we're live on the YouTube. Sherwin, give him a little bit of entertainment while I'm doing a little bit of this button mashing.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously the off-season means that we're going to talk about, some things that are not at all related to NASCAR because that's kind of what we need to do. We got some stuff, though. Obviously, we clearly have some pretty interesting things to discuss that have been announced lately. We have what a lot of people consider to be one of the premier, late model races that had some more interesting goings on that we'll talk about. And, yeah, we'll see how it flows. We'll talk about a little Christmas stuff. We may even ask you what your favorite Christmas movie is. And if you answer wrong, then we'll let you know. Talk about what you and your family like to do in the off season, and what's your favorite way to prepare Christmas dinner. And
well, we got a whole litany of stuff.
Yeah.
Looks like folks are jumping on. Good to see y'all, Roger, Jumpy Bob, etc. I think we're about ready to get the show started. Let's see here. That's all set up. Jeff, are you ready to roll?
I am ready to roll.
Sure, when you're ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Like I said, we'll disappear for about 90 seconds. We'll be back with you. Here goes nothing. Recording now. You know what? I'm starting the recording over. Hold on. I didn't like that because it started in the middle of the song, not at the beginning.
Oh, that'll happen.
Yep. All right. Try again. Recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 224. It's Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, man?
Hey, we got a returning guest, and I don't want to steal your thunder about the introduction, so I'll let you do that. But I'm excited nonetheless.
Oh, man, same. This is going to be a boatload of fun. Y'all know what the deal is. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM and join that Watch Drink Club for as little as $1 a month and get that free koozie. Best part is every cent this year, as we're closing out the year, we're donating to sponsored drivers. So join the PTM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. They are... Here we go. Lauren Henshaw, Aaron Bin, Robert Keplinger, Coleman McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Rika Porter, John Bob Les Miller, Julie Bosley, John Pearson, Eddie Grid, Third, Younger Motorsports, David Mose, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, Crystal Smoke, Fred Rosado, Chad Knappett, Stacey Coleman, Matthew Kemper, Lisa Chinana, Rick Houston, and Sarah Mbari.
Not bad. That was good.
You know, I had to take that extra breath. That extra deep.
Yeah, kind of like
to get
do that double long burst.
Yeah. Fill up the rest of the lungs. Those part of the lungs that hadn't been used very often, lately, because I'm not exactly running around. Anyway, y'all, our guest tonight, he's making his second appearance on the PTM podcast, earning that PETM master's degree. He's the anchor for MRN Radio, and he is the voice of NASCAR, coming off his award, by the way, for most popular guest on the Lap Traffic podcast. So, congratulations to him. He's on Twitter at Jeff Striegel. Welcome in back to the show, Jeff Striegel. Jeff, what's happening?
Hey, man, it's good to be with you guys. There is so much going on, and it's crazy because here we are getting ready to launch into the off season, and like you guys are talking about, leading up to the show, all the different, very cool storylines that are going on right now, and I can't wait to get to all of them. So happy holidays to you two and to everybody who is watching and listening, and I'm ready to get this show started.
Man, yeah, well, you've been on once, and you know how we start the show, but I imagine it's going to be a little different for you today, given the state of your voice and whatnot. But what are you drinking on tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, I went to Daytona, and for some of those that may follow me on Twitter, they probably knew I went to Daytona. I made a bit of a spoof about the fact that I went to the track and I couldn't get in, and, that just made me sick, sitting on the outside looking in. Well, it physically made me sick. I came home from vacation, brought the flu with me. You were talking about taking some deep breaths from time to time, and I may have to do that as well. But the flu is not going to slow us down. I am ready to go.
Man. Well, Sherwin, you have something for our very special guest here in terms of the What You Drinking segment.
Oh, yeah. Well, representing where our guests have come from, we haven't really maintained this very well over the past 6 months or so, and that's probably on me. But in the PTM bar here, we do have Bell's Two-Hearted IPA, which is right out of Michigan.
That's right.
I like it.
That's right. So trying to represent our esteemed guest here. Jeff, you said you've been in Daytona, and you had, it looked like you had a great trip there, and apologies for bringing back the flu. What was it like? Going by the track, empty track. Were you excited already? Is it like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get back to the track and get going? Or are you kind of enjoying this off season? What's the off season like for Jeff Striegel?
First of all, I'm ready to get back. Secondly, as far as what I'm drinking, I should have been more specific. I did just do a shot just prior to the show, and it was a shot of NyQuil, the dark green one.
Did you do it out of a shot glass
stuff.
or that little plastic cup thing?
Just to fit in with you guys. I got to be honest with you right now. I'm drinking like water. So, but anyway, I go to Daytona for a vacation because I love Daytona. We had just come out of Nashville and wrapped up the banquet on Friday. I flew home Friday night, got my wife. We turned around, got on a plane on Saturday morning, and went right back to Daytona. And, spent most of my time on the beach. However, I had to go to the track, and we did that Monday. I guess that was yesterday, right? So we were I don't even know what day it is today, to be honest with you. We went to the track on Monday and just kind of drove around, looked at it. I love being there. That is my favorite track. That is my favorite place to be. It is my favorite race, certainly in February, and for a couple of reasons. One, that you can really support, I'm sure, and that is in February in Michigan, around my house, I'll have probably 3 feet of snow. And so the opportunity to get out of here and get down to the beach is always welcome. And hey, it's Daytona. I just love it. So to answer your question, I'm ready to go. Can't wait to get back.
Well, you know what? With you on a shot of NyQuil, I think that we might get some deeper answers out of you than us sitting here drinking on the beer.
No kidding. I did see some great pictures on Instagram and everywhere else of you and your wife on the beach. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had fun, and, it's a great way to just kind of wrap it up and then come home and get ready for the holidays.
Right on. What else are there NASCAR-related stuff that you're doing during the holidays, or do you just kind of take a mental break for a little bit?
It's certainly a mental break. There's really not that much to do. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was agreeing. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's really not that much to do. So if we have a few things that we do for the Motor Racing Network, whether we're doing some pieces, if you will, to get ready for the 2020 season, I can voice track some of that stuff. Alex Hayden and I will jump on a phone call and talk to producers and what have you that are there in Charlotte. And we just may talk about formatics and different things that we might be looking at doing. But, for the most part, it is downtime. It is boredom time. I will sit and peruse and try to make sure that I stay up to speed on everything that's going on. Other than that, it's just wait and count down the days, which I believe it's at 67 right now before the 500.
67.
Yeah,
Sherwin.
67 more days. I think you should convince Rick Houston to do an off-season podcast with you.
That would be fun. That has been tossed around, not with Rick, but it has been tossed around about doing a podcast. I'd be interested in doing that. I love what you guys do. I really do. I really, truly do. I'm a fan.
My man.
And, you were mentioning Lap Traffic. I'm a fan of theirs. I like what you guys do, and I'd like to be a part of it. Just haven't put it all together and said, okay, you know what, let's make it happen. So for right now, I am very happy just being a guest.
Well, you know what? I think Brandon is actually on the YouTube chat there, so he's listening in. He can hear all that. And you know what?
All right.
We'll just tell him to make it happen because he makes stuff happen.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh man, yeah, that sounds awesome. So Christmas coming up. Are you staying in town or heading away?
Yeah, we're gonna stay in town. We had the little mini vacation just now. We're gonna take a little mini vacation right after the first of the year and go down to Nassau. So we will. I got to be honest with you. I love getting out of the snow all the time, other than right around the holidays. I mean, right around Christmas, right around New Year's. If we've got 12 inches of snow or 3 feet of snow or whatever the case is, it just makes it feel like Christmas. Have the kids up and just try to enjoy a little family time.
Yeah, I'll say this. From the very short period of time that I lived in Michigan, there is something special about snow being on the ground around Christmas time. It looks like all those movies you've seen and everything else. Like it just kind of adds to the mood.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting.
Merry Christmas, Shitter was full.
Yeah. I'm actually flying through Minnesota, a few days before Christmas, and I'm actually nervous because that's my stop off to go to Japan, where we're going.
I'll say that's the correct side of the lakes to be on, though. By the way.
Yeah, that's true because the jet stream going the other way and just dump. Yeah. So I was curious and I looked up. All right, when do they start? When's it really start being an issue, right? Well, I saw a video from October 9th of this year, and they are spraying down the plains with like 4 feet of snow all around, and I'm, oh my gosh.
That green stuff that melts the ice.
Yeah. Oh man. We're in for it. Hopefully, we'll get through Minnesota just fine and get on the other side of that. But that's going to be interesting to get there. Sherwin, what are you doing for Christmas? You hanging out or what's your deal?
So my sister and her husband are coming in for
From
a few
Denver.
days.
Yeah.
But I just booked a plane yesterday to go to Lexington to visit a friend of mine that I met in Michigan.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm going to spend a week with her, so that should be fun.
That's awesome, dude. So we're all going to be in many different places come Christmas.
So I'm out 27th to the 25th, so I'm kind of covering up the days that you'll be gone, so I won't be like pining around for an episode of PTM.
Yeah, that can't happen. Yep. So we'll be on a little bit of a hiatus for the Christmas and New Year, but we'll be back right after that. We can't stand just not sitting here talking about NASCAR. With that, let's talk a little NASCAR. It's time to tear it down. Woo, we got some news to talk about, Sherwin.
Woo.
And Jeff, we'll start with you. Cole Pern, man, I'll tell you what. When Jimmy announced, it was like, oh, okay, well, I figured it might be one more year or this year. Who knows? Or maybe one more year than he said. But, I mean, you see it coming. With Cole Pern, Cole Pern was born December, the same year I was born.
I was going to say, he's the same age as you.
Yeah.
Like, as of, 2 days ago.
Right.
Or today.
Yeah. So he's like 6 months younger than I am. And he's calling it right now. And here's the thing. How many times have I thought or said, you know what? You just give me a few million and I'm out. You'll never see my butt again, Right. And then here we go. Here's this guy who's doing exactly what I said I would do. And I'm sitting here going, what's going on? I'm shocked. So I don't know how to reconcile
he's
that.
Such a great mind.
Yeah.
That you're like if you're a nerd like us, you're kind of like,
we don't want to lose that.
I need this. I need this nerd in NASCAR.
Yeah. Jeff, where are you at on this?
Well, it's an interesting situation, isn't it? Nobody saw it coming. I never heard rumor to it. Everybody was at the banquet. Nobody said a thing about it. So when we read about it and we see it, explode on Twitter, everybody is shocked and surprised. And I was just on with Brendan, as you guys know, and I said this to him, and I'm going to say the same thing to you guys. I wasn't shocked. I was sad about the fact that he's leaving, but I don't think I can be shocked. This sport is the most grueling sport on the planet. And how these individuals, male and female, do this year in and year out, around the calendar is beyond me because we see these cars and these teams show up on Sunday and we watch them on TV or we listen to them on the radio and then they disappear for 7 days or 6 days. And boom, there they are again. And we watch them for 3, 4, 5 hours. What we do not see is the endless hours that are put in when the TV's not on them, because it literally is around the clock, 24/7, building race cars and making them go fast. And when you're Cole Pern, I have to applaud him. And I think everybody does. But I'm going to say it this way. I have to applaud him. He's had fame. He's had fortune. And now he wants his family. And I don't think anybody can second guess that or judge him for that. And I guess I go back to the word shocked that we don't see this happen more often.
Yeah, I think I wasn't as shocked. I mean, I was definitely shocked, but I wasn't as shocked because we've already seen Steve Letarte make this same decision as a young man.
Yep.
He's still only 37 years old. He's the same age as you, Rusty.
I didn't know that.
And he left what would arguably be one of the best jobs in motorsports is being Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s crew chief. Now, granted, he had something to go to, and he's still got a lot of travel and a lot of work and preparation he has to do in order to be a good broadcaster. But I'm totally with you, Jeff. I love it for Cole that he's able to make this decision at this age. He's made no bones about the fact that he really doesn't like living in North Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he moved back to Canada with his family or went somewhere out west because I know he loved being in Denver. But at the same time, as competitors, as fans of competitors, you're like, but this is probably the best guy that does this thing that's not named Rodney Childers. And so you're like, we're going to miss out as fans a little bit. And so you kind of have to be a little sad in a way.
As a fan.
No doubt. And I like the word. I'm saddened that he's leaving, but not shocked. 13% of the times that he sat on that pit box, he won. 179 starts at the cup level, 24 wins. I mean, that is Chad Knaus type numbers. Now, the longevity's not there, obviously, but at the same time, the winning percentage is actually slightly better than Chad. This guy is a genius. He did, when you go back, you guys were just talking about the fact that he said, I don't necessarily like living in North Carolina. I've got a family. This is the guy that shows up in a T-shirt and a pair of blue jeans when he comes in and works on those cars, as we've all talked about so many times. This guy does things his own way. And I have a feeling that he probably didn't even know he was going to make that announcement anything more than maybe 7 days prior. It was probably one of those deals where he literally woke up, sat down, talked to his wife, and said, you know what, I'm ready to be done. I am ready to walk away. Because you're back to your other point that you made, being competitive. If you allow that competitive nature to drive you, you're going to be in the sport until you die. And while he's very competitive, I think that it just something triggered inside of him, and he said, you know what? I'm walking, and I'm doing it right now on my own terms.
Yeah.
I think it's great. It's definitely going to be great for his peace of mind and his family, and obviously, I'm sure he's got a pile of money squirreled away from all the wins, and it doesn't have anything to do with money. I'm just saying I'm sure he's financially stable, and he could probably get a great job if he wanted to get, a 40-hour-a-week job somewhere wherever he decides to live. I'm sure that would be very easy for him to do, but he probably doesn't even have to do that. The fact that he wants to spend time with his kids is really awesome. The fact that he could retire in his 30s is very enviable.
Yeah.
For sure. Now,
Yeah.
now contrast this with Jimmy, who I really feel like is driven by that competitive spirit, and I almost feel like if Jimmy was winning like old Jimmy did, or like Cole Pern is right now, Jimmy wouldn't be leaving next season. I don't feel like.
No, I'm totally with you on that.
So, is there a contrast there, Jeff, in that Jimmy is so driven by that competitive spirit? I feel like he doesn't necessarily want to leave, but he knows it's time.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting one. I mean, I think one thing you can look at is the fact that let's just compare Cole and Jimmy for a minute. When Jimmy gets out of that race car and somebody gives him a pat on the back, says, "We're good, go ahead and get out of here," he jumps on a jet.
Yeah.
Oftentimes he's with his family, and 3 hours later he's back home. Now, granted, he holds a hellacious schedule. We all get it. But for Cole, he's there in the garage until they release the car. He jumps on the charter plane. He goes back. He's probably goes right to the shop. Goes in, checks to see how is our next car coming. He's back at the shop at 7 a.m. or 5 a.m. He's there until midnight. No comparisons there. I don't know. When you look at how Jimmy has conducted his career, I was probably more surprised that he decided to step away right now, primarily because of Ally Financial making the commitment to back the 48 car. It looked like that was going to be, what was it, a 4 or 5 year deal? I don't recall. But to me, it looked like that aligned perfectly and would allow Jimmy to close out his career in the 48 car with Hendrick and with Ally Financial. So when he decided to step away, I was surprised. And, guys, with the fact that, let's face it, they are competitive now. I see no reason at all that Jimmy doesn't win a time or two or maybe 3 next year before he hangs it up. And I'd be really happy if he did it, because I'd like to see that man go out, not, I almost said go out on top. He is on top. But go out with a win and never having to go, geez, I should have celebrated that victory 2 years ago a lot better. I didn't think it was going to be my last one. I want to see him win at least one more time.
Well, we talked on this show already about how I think Rusty and I are both kind of aligned on this a little bit, and I know I was the one that said it, but I'd love to see Jimmy win 2 races and set himself apart from Cale Yarbrough and Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip and be the next guy that's ahead of them. Just for all the same reasons you just said, is this is our champion. Rusty and I didn't start watching this sport until 2001, 2002. We really didn't start going to races until 2004, and really probably didn't really get into it until 06 or 07. So we've seen this generational champion, like, his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, you're not ready to let go of that. Like, you want to put your claws in and go, hey, man, let's get a little bit more.
PTM podcast is not known for, like, hard-hitting interviews and we, ask the tough questions and all that. But I am curious, Jeff, how that compares and contrasts with, I'll say, I won't call you out specifically, but the broadcaster's schedule and the things that folks like you have to think about and things that you have to balance. How are you able to make that sort of balance, or is it even a comparison with what these guys are doing?
Well, I think we see it for sure. We're on the road all the time, and it does get very personal when you talk to a Doug Rice or myself or a Dave Moody. Pick anybody. Radio. I gave you some radio names, but you could do the same thing with Mike Joy. Mm-hmm. We don't get a chance to see that high school football game. We don't get, to see that high school play. I don't know why I'm using the word high school, but we don't get to see all the things the people that may have a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job do. Now, granted, there's a ton of people who travel and do things just like we do, and they're in the same boat. But I've been doing this for 22 years. So I'll be starting my 23rd year. And you do miss a lot. You know, Winston Kelly's been doing it for 35 years. And you start looking back. You try not to. You have to. But you try not to look back and go, yeah, I remember you telling me about that. Telling me about that because I wasn't there. I didn't see it firsthand. And so, you know, when that's, I guess, being a dad, that's why when I hear this from Cole Pern, this doesn't surprise me. This is just somebody who said, I need to do what's right for me and my family. And unfortunately, walking away from his passion is what he has to do to accomplish that goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't want to disparage the fact that we're sitting here talking about these guys having to work this grueling schedule, and here we are talking to a guy who has to work this grueling schedule and not give some credence to the fact that you're right there along with him. We'll move along. Let's go to Snowball Derby. Another wild and crazy show, Sherwin. We have...
they had the big one in a short track race
no kidding.
to start with.
No kidding. And then almost like we are... taking last year's script and copy paste, change the names a little bit, and hey, this happens again. So Stephen Nasse, I should say, passes the finish line ahead of everyone else after driving from 36th place or something like that with no power steering, which we heard that recently too at another track. I can't remember who it was recently that did something similar, but point is, they found that his car had titanium piston caps on the brakes, I believe. And in the rule book, it says titanium not allowed. No titanium anywhere because it does
probably because it
other.
dissipates heat better.
Yeah. It had something to do with the heat. Yep. And so I think, first off, Nasse, what can you say? I think he kind of went off the rails and started just pointing at everybody and
definitely pointed some fingers.
Yeah, and he said something about they're playing favorites all over the place and this and that. It's hard to argue with somebody who, you know, this is the pinnacle of their achievements, and to have it taken away like that, and then start blaming them for any sort of reaction they have. So I can't sit here and be like, oh, you need to be a little more diplomatic there, Steven. You know, he'd probably hit you in the face, but. Jeff, what do you think about all this? We'll say the fact that Snowball Derby, 2 years in a row, we have a winner not winner,
and 4 of the last 6 years, by the way.
And 4 of the last 6 years, yeah. What does this race come to?
How much time do we have here? We're going to have to start the 60-minute clock and keep me on time. All right, I think a lot of people know that I own some cars that I own super late models. So, you know, we run the Berlin 251, and we have for 10 years. I am really going to be hypocritical when it comes to this because I can see both sides. I do see where it says there's no titanium allowed, and that means if it's on the car, you're illegal. But we have a rule in every super late model rule book that says no carbon fiber. So if you show up and you got a carbon fiber dashboard or a carbon fiber roof or whatever, you're going to be illegal, even though in this particular case for Stephen, that titanium wasn't a factor in whether he won that race or not.
Yep.
It just happened to be the fact that he had titanium on there. Where I have an issue, and I will tell you this, you and I and the majority of the folks that have weighed in on this on social media, which is obviously, as we all know, has been a ton. We don't know the whole story. We're getting, he said, that guy said, she said, and we don't know the facts. What I don't like is if what Steven said is true, then I have a real issue with it. If they knew, if they were tipped off, they being the promoters, and I'm not going to name names, just go to social media and you can find them all. If they were tipped off that he had titanium on those brake rotor caps, and they didn't say anything about it at the beginning of the race prior to that thing starting, then I have a real issue with that. I got a big issue with that. If we waited, that's what Stephen has alluded to, that they were tipped off, and you've read it.
Yep.
That doesn't make it legal. That just makes it wrong from a promoter's standpoint. Doesn't make what Stephen did right or wrong. It's still wrong. But my gosh, man, if that's what we're getting to, but again, I don't want to throw the track promoters under the bus because that's what one person has said. I'd like to find out more about the brake rotors and if that's exactly the way that they're being sold. I heard that he drilled them. That's where we get into that he said, she said kind of deal. So I can see both sides of it. I understand why Stephen is upset, but I also understand what it says in the rule book. So a tough place to be in. And here's my final thought. Congratulations to Travis Braden, kid out of West Virginia, tremendous super late model talent, tremendous race car driver. Congratulations to him. When I think of some of these tech deals that last for 20 minutes and then 30 minutes and 35 minutes, and I've been there, and you're like, how long are we going to have this car sitting here in tech? Is the car here in tech simply for you to find something illegal on the car? Right. Or are we simply, or are we just going through it front to rear and move the car along? That car of his was in tech several times during the week. And then for them to bring the car in tech, immediately go to the brakes, just smells kind of fishy, and I don't like it. And I'll tell you what, they better not like it either, because what you guys just said, the last 2 years in a row, 4 of the last 6, the winning car has been DQ'd. I'm here to tell you that if I'm a race fan, I kind of want to know who won the race before I go home. And if we can't figure out how to do a better job of that ahead of time, then something needs to be done. There's my thoughts.
Well, and so add into the fact that they had a whole extra day, which I'm sure they weren't allowed to touch the car. But what I would say is, and I'm glad you mentioned his name, Travis Braden. Congratulations to him for taking home the trophy. But nobody's talking about Travis Braden. They're all talking about Stephen Nasse. Mm-hmm. So in the end, for his own marketing purposes, like he kind of wins on this deal in that respect, because his name is the one that's being discussed. His name is the one that Kyle Busch called out on the deal, and it won't end up being the same thing as when Eric Jones beat Kyle Busch at the Snowball Derby and ultimately became a Cup driver. But I don't know where I was going with that other than just to say it.
Well, no, you're saying that all PR is good PR essentially, and so he might get some maybe not a deal out of this, but his name is now out there. You'll remember Stephen Nasse next time something happens. I'll bring all this back to NASCAR, and I feel like as much as we have sort of squinted our eyes at it, or I shouldn't say we, but the fan base has squinted their eyes at NASCAR starting to take away wins. We've seen it this past year. Where exactly what you said, the guy who crossed the finish line first is not the winner of the race. It feels like NASCAR, dare I say, is doing it right in a different way. That they're not looking for somebody to fail. When they come into tech, they want you to pass. This felt like, to Jeff's point, that they're looking, and maybe this is he said, she said, but that possibly they were looking to fail. Where in NASCAR they want you to pass, and that's when they come back out, and I feel like you can see it in their faces when they come out and they go, we had to take away this win because it's bad in there. Y'all don't want to go in there. It's bad.
Well, and I think Weaver has alluded to that a lot because he's got a lot of love for Snowball growing up right down there in Mobile, and that's probably the race that he went to the most often, that was the most important and in the most in public spotlight. And it's been very talked about a lot about how the guy that runs the show down there, like, this is his deal. He rules with an iron fist. But, I mean, how much hunting can you do around that car that you couldn't have done on Friday?
Right.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you that, like we said, if they knew about it ahead of time, and there's so many things that you guys just said that we're talking about that we just don't know the answers to it. And I liked what you said a minute ago. I'm going to be very disappointed the first time I ever see a NASCAR official come out of the trailer and go, "Guess what, everybody," with a smile on his face. we just DQ'd the 319 car, and kind of gives a little bit of a chuckle.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not funny. It's not funny. It's not funny to the fans. It's not funny to the team and the organization. It's not funny to the sponsors. It's not funny to the sanctioning body for the way you put it together. There's nothing good that comes from it. And you know what? I applaud NASCAR and the teams because over the course of the last, what would you guys say, year and a half,
Yep.
we've cleaned it up. We aren't talking about the officials anymore. We're talking about what's going on the racetrack. I think
That's right.
the teams have gotten the message. I think NASCAR has gotten the message. Now, hopefully that will trickle down and cover all racetracks. There's nothing good that comes when you can walk out of the little room and go, yep, that car is disqualified. And by the way, tip of the cap to Matt Weaver, by the way. I heard you guys just mention him. He does a remarkable job. I followed all of the Derby with, laying on the couch and, taking every medication I could and just kind of following what was going on there with Matt. And that is one individual that just does a great job.
I think
Yeah,
as pale a guy as Matt is, he is turning completely red as soon as we tell him to listen to this part of the podcast that Jeff Striegel's given him such high honors. So that's awesome.
Yeah, well, we have a ton of respect for Matt.
Yeah.
Matt's been a really strong supporter of what we're doing and been a good friend. So
Yeah, yeah.
Echo what you just said.
And we'll move on to the next one. Joey Logano testing at Phoenix in that next gen car, and everybody's talking about one thing, Sherwin. They talking about that spoiler. He runs out there with this, what it looked like about a 3-inch spoiler. Maybe it was like 5 or something. But
I think it's 2 3/4 is what it
I was
looked
close.
like. Yeah,
That was just me looking at it.
yeah.
Is this just NASCAR kind of trying something out, Jeff, or is this pointing to something real?
Well, I definitely think it's pointing to something real. We cannot allow ourselves to get caught up in what we're seeing virtually, a full year and a little bit more away. I like everything that I see. I think we have to remember that the word test is being used for good reason. We're going to take the car out there, we're going to put Logano or whomever in it, and we're going to run this thing around ISM or wherever we're going to go, and we're going to get feedback. I can't wait until we see 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 cars out there testing. But, I think they're going to look at everything. They're going to look at, the ride heights. They're going to look at spoiler heights. They're going to look at everything that they possibly can to make sure that when they can't afford to make a mistake here. They need to hit the ground in 2021 with the I's dotted and the T's crossed, because you and I know the fan is not going to cut NASCAR any slack if they find any kind of an issue, if you will, with the car when they unveil it.
Yeah, that's 100% right there. And that just sparked my mind to ask a question and to get your thoughts on it, Jeff. Do you think in the All-Star race we're going to see them run the 2021 car as a test case?
Yeah, it's an assumption, isn't it? Because we don't know. Haven't heard, have no clue. Do I think that would be an opportunity? Absolutely 100% right. They could, obviously if that's the case, they want to be able to get the car as close to where they think it needs to be as possible, so they can give those specs then to Team Penske and RCR, Hendrick, etc., so that they can create something that works within that template. I'd love to see it, and I would imagine, Rusty, you would probably like to see it as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea because it's your only opportunity to really get 20 cars out there and running 100 laps together.
Yeah, yeah. And we've seen this before. We've said it many times. Let's do something wacko at the All-Star race, and I think they've started to come around to that. And I mean, from the qualifying pit stop deal to running the new car or whatever it is. I think it's a great opportunity is a word right here.
Yeah.
Opportunity to show off, hey, look, And boy, we talked about that spoiler, but that car sure looks sexy, Sherwin.
It does look good. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think in 2007, when they were, running the COT on the short tracks, did they not run the COT in the All-Star race as a way to test? Because
I don't recall.
I think they may have.
Mm.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
But it's an opportunity where all the cars got to be there anyway. Like, all the teams are showing up. They're all building these cars already.
Mm-hmm.
They're already seeing what's going on. Might as well get out there and run them and see what happens.
Why did they choose Phoenix, if I put on my, tinfoil hat here? I mean, I know it's, you can't run Watkins Glen in December, but there's probably, 6 or 8 tracks you could run at. Is it because of what it is, or is it near something, or
because it's the last race
because
of
it's
next
the last
year?
race of the season? Is that what they're? Is there like a little, I don't know, underscore or asterisk there, Jeff? What do you think?
I don't know. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's 85 there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
25 at Michigan. Now, you're just not going to get them up here, or at the Glen, or Kansas. I don't know. I think that's a great place to go and test a good flat one. Well, I suppose you could look at it this way. Where did we have the least favorable races? And you would say, well, Dover, 1 mile track, ISM, 1 mile track. Not that they're going to be able to come out of ISM with a test and go, hey, I think we've got the world solved, because we know that it's going to take more than that to get it done. But I don't know. I think it just has to do with the fact that you can go down there, you can get the car on the racetrack, get the testing in, and load up and get out of there.
Well, I'm just glad they brought more than one driver, because we know up to this point, up until this past week, that Austin Dillon and RCR have primarily been the test cases for building this new car and testing it. It's good to see another driver get in one and see what it's like. And it's good for them to try out a different size spoiler, just to see, what the data says.
Yeah, just see how it feels. Just for a minute. No, wait. Speaking of RCR, there's some speculation, Sherwin.
Segue.
Now, I didn't corroborate this whatsoever. I just took exactly what Sherwin sent me on this one. Some of these stories I kind of looked up, dug deep, but Sherwin, is there speculation of Suarez over to RCR? What's the story?
Well, I wouldn't have put it in the show sheet if it wasn't somebody on Twitter that I really respect the information that they typically provide.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I mentioned it. But that seems to be one of the potential landing places for him, is a third car at RCR. Now, that would definitely overtax what their current capabilities are, and they're not winning races. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense about it. There are some that do.
Yeah. Jeff, rumor mill, are you in on this one, or does it stink?
I'm in on this, and I'll tell you why.
Oh,
Suarez, I think Daniel has some money in his back pocket, and
$6 million is the rumor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, and there you go.
That's probably more than what Cole Pern's retiring. Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is, if you have money at this level, you're going to probably land in a car somewhere or another, right, wrong, or indifferent. We know that there are some pretty fantastic drivers out there that will never get a shot because they don't have any money behind them. And we also know, and I'm not putting Suarez in this category, I'm just, laying it out there. There are other drivers that we know of that are driving today, and we scratch our head, go, man, wouldn't it be better if they had this guy or that gal in the car? Well, the bottom line is, when you have 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 million, you're going to be attractive as a third car or a fourth car. So you bet. Suarez going to RCR or somewhere else before we get to Daytona would not be a surprise at all.
Speaking of, these are fantastic. Go ahead, Sherwin. No, I was going to go segue just because it was perfect.
No, I was just going to cut you off real quick.
At it.
The thing is, and I know nobody likes to get demoted. Like, we've been talking about Daniel Hemrick. He signed a great deal with Junior Motorsports. That's probably going to work out pretty good for him. You can take $6 million to the Xfinity Series and fund an entire car for the entire season.
Yeah. Well, and it also gives good opportunity for good drivers, I guess. Paul Menard, an example that we've talked about before. We used to call him Daddy's Money back in the day.
Daddy's Money.
Especially after he won Indy, and it was like, whoa, okay, this guy is
he
for real.
won at the only place his dad would want him to win. If he had one win, that's the place.
Yeah. But whether that solidified it or it was solidified before, he came in with money. You have the money, you get to play. And so I guess I'm just confirming what you and Jeff were both saying there. What I was going to segue into, continuing talking about the people who didn't have the money and coming in. Ty Majeski is going to be full-time in Nice Motorsports 45 next year in the Truck Series, replacing Ross.
Ross.
And Ross, evidently this week, said that he's going to be driving all three series again.
Good for him.
As much as he can. And to me, it feels like this is what I did last time, and it worked out pretty well, so I'm going to do that again.
I'm kind of surprised that Junior Motorsports didn't figure out a way to get him in one of their cars.
Yeah. Jeff, where's your so you're talking to two guys who are melon heads.
Absolute melon heads, yes.
So, don't say anything disparaging, but, say what you got to say. No.
Well, I'm going to remind you that I was A, on vacation, and B, when not on vacation, I was sick. You are telling me something that I'm actually not up to speed on. I did not know that Ross was going to leave that ride, and so you probably have a lot more information. I know he was planning on running all three. I thought I understood what he was doing, but now you're telling me that that may not be the case, that he may be moving from one team to another. So, and opening things up for Ty Majeski. So that's news to me. That must have just happened recently.
I'm thinking Ross is probably going to move over to the 44, which was their test truck or their R&D truck or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ty probably has money that Ross doesn't.
Well, and
you're talking about him staying with Nice on the truck side. I thought you were referencing the fact that he was leaving that truck team.
I don't know that information is out in the public space yet.
I have no idea. Other than, if you're Nice Motorsports, what do you have? You have a guy who can't run for a championship in trucks, right?
Yeah,
correct.
So, to me, it would make sense to look around and see what you can do. I think Ty is a great choice there. The name that he's made thus far. So, and who knows? Maybe you'll corroborate this in a little bit, Jeff. You'll go, "Hey, wait, I need to look this up," and then suddenly Rusty had all his facts wrong. But
well, that's true. Yeah. So a lot of this is speculation. I think
this one was announced.
That was definitely announced. I think what we're all waiting for is to figure out when Kurt Busch is going to retire, because I think the number one ride is Ross's whenever that happens. That's speculation.
Yeah. Jeff, are you on the melon head train, or should we end the podcast now? No.
No. We're good. I think you're right on to something. Now, how soon Kurt Busch decides to leave? Here's a perfect case in point, right? This is probably a Hall of Fame driver in Kurt Busch. I don't know if anybody's going to disagree with me on that or not.
No, 100% Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got a Hall of Fame driver. You got a 2003 or 2002 champion driver, a driver who can still win today. He's proven that, and he has Monster behind him. So don't expect Chip to show Kurt to the door, because it's not going to happen. Kurt would have to do something really, really, really bad, and I don't think Kurt is going to do something really, really bad.
Not anymore.
I like Kurt Busch. I really do. I spent some time with him down in Nashville. I've always liked him. Always have liked him. And I don't want to say because he has money, he has a ride, because the man also has a wealth of talent But I think the point here is that as long as Kurt Busch wants to drive, and as long as he has Monster behind him, we're going to see him in the number one car.
Yeah,
I suppose that, if he and his wife decide that it's time to raise a family, going back to how we started with Cole Pern, maybe you see Kurt say, you know what, it's time for me to call it a career and step aside. But it'll be interesting to watch how that all takes place over the course of the next year or two or three or whatever it may be.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think he's a no-doubter Hall of Famer, 30 wins and a NASCAR championship. I think he's definitely in on that. Didn't he win a truck championship too? When he was just a young buck.
Can't recall.
With
Sherwin,
Roush.
and his age always surprised me. He's like your age, right? Isn't that right? Or
Yeah, he's the same age as me. He's 38.
Yeah. So it's funny. We keep talking about Sherwin's like, yeah, he's your age, Rusty, and I'm like, yeah, he's this other guy's your age, Sherwin. We're like a year apart, so it's not it's not like we're
actually. I think he's a year older than me. I think he's 39.
Okay,
but still,
I actually think he's a couple years older than you because he is 41.
Really?
Oh, okay. So he's a little bit older than I thought.
So maybe I'm not surprised then. There was a point where somebody told me his age, and I thought, that's way younger than I thought. Maybe that was 3 years ago.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to totally throw everybody a curveball here.
Here we go.
Who is the Cup driver that we all know and everybody, or not everybody likes, but a lot of people like, that might consider the transition back to running like trucks or something? Just more condensed schedule, less work to do. Maybe somebody that wants to fill out that whole catalog of I want a championship in every series. A Clint Boyer, for instance. Well, he didn't win a Cup championship, but somebody like that that'd be like, yeah, I think I'm done with Cup, but maybe I'll go back and run trucks.
Has anybody done that?
I don't think so. I think most of the guys that have gone back to trucks and really run really well had Cup careers, but really didn't win.
Yeah. That would be interesting. Is that a career path, Jeff, or is it more like, hey, once you've reached Cup, you're going to retire from Cup?
Well, I was sitting here trying to run the roster through my head, and then I got halfway through it, and I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think anybody's going to do that on purpose. We did see that, what you guys are talking about, and you nailed it. Johnny Benson, Mike Skinner.
Mm-hmm.
There's a long list, Ted Musgrave, of guys that ran at a higher level, if you will, than the truck series, and decided to call it a career after running a season or two or five with a good truck team. Nowadays, you look at the evolution of the truck series. It used to be a bunch of cagey old veterans mixed with a handful of young talent. Today, it is all young talent with the exception of maybe a Crafton and a Sauter. So I don't know. I don't see, let's just use an example. I don't see an Austin Dillon going there because he wants to. I don't think Matt DiBenedetto goes there because he wants to. These guys, when we talk about how competitive this sport is and these individuals are, they want to be the best at the highest level, and they're going to stay in there and keep banging their head against the wall until they either accomplish it or knock themselves out, whichever comes first. So I don't know. It's an interesting thought, and, we see the progression. Maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road, maybe we see a return to that type of situation where a good truck owner wants a good old veteran to come and drive their equipment.
All right, so I'm going to tear up Rusty's show sheet again. Sorry, another curveball. At the Vegas sports book, let's say it's the Bellagio. What do you think over/under on DiBenedetto winning in the Wood Brothers car is? I'm going to put it at 0 and a hook.
Yeah, I was going to say that's about even money to me. That's an even money bet. You're talking about any win next year?
Yeah. Any win means you win the bet.
You know what? Maybe a 3-1, but that's not saying that's not a huge under. What do you think, Jeff?
I love Matt and I love the Wood brothers, but I'd probably put it at 20 to 1.
Okay.
Do we have an answer?
No, not yet. I haven't seen one. We should ask Brandon because he probably knows. Michigan just passed Sportsbook, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Oh, that's going to be dangerous when I get there. You know what? We have media passes we're going to have to ask Jeff if am I allowed to place a bet if I have a media pass at Michigan?
And we're also going to have to meet you in person, by the way, which we were not able to do last year.
Another opportunity to be disappointed, but that's okay. I'm happy to.
Hey, you've had many disappointments.
Well, it sounded like you were in a really cool suite, so I don't blame you.
You've had many disappointments in your life, and meeting us will be among the highest of those.
All right, I got to come back, though, and I want to stay with this. You think that Matt and the Wood brothers, all right, let me just ask you, Rusty, let's start with you. Do they win next year, and do they win more than one? How many wins is Matt and the Wood brothers going to have next year? Rusty, go.
Less than 2. And, are we talking odds or are we talking actual numbers? Because I might be able to say they can get like 0.4 wins, right? That's where I'm at.
Yeah, how many times are they going to win? How many times are they going to win next year?
If I'm looking at the field, man, and I'm looking at who's out there, and it would be really tough for them to win. I agree. I can't. How about,
how much better do we think?
If you ask me in 2021, I'm feeling pretty confident that between 2020 and 2021, DiBenedetto has a trophy. How many of those won come next year? Oh, that's tough. I can't say that he wins, man, but I love the guy. I want him to win. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's why I said it at a half, the over-under.
Well, right. So that gives us, he's either going to win or not. So those are the two options.
Right. So it's a 50-50 bet.
I guess everybody is, but
we know the team has at times built cars capable of doing it because Ryan Blaney proved that to us. Yep. Now, granted, they have changed a lot since then. We also know that Matt Benedetto, Burrito. I can say burrito much better.
There you go.
He doesn't like that. Guido has consistently outperformed the capability of his car. Now, so where the conversation comes is, does the package that we have now support what he's good at? Is he a better race car driver than Ryan Blaney, even though he hasn't had the same opportunities that Ryan Blaney has had? So I don't know the answer to that. I just think it's fun to talk about.
Pull something crazy off at Bristol. How nuts. And I think
Bristol is, Martinsville or Bristol.
Yeah.
The Wood brothers do not suck at Martinsville.
And Jeff, I think that's where me and Sherwin are, is so much in the fan side of things that I don't want to sit here and admit that I don't think Burrito wins next year. I don't want to admit that because I want it to happen so bad, and I want to look forward to that.
Be a surprise.
That I want to be excited. But yeah, I understand the realist part. I get it.
Well, let me throw this in there. Do you think Jimmy's going to win? Yes or no? Does Jimmy win in his final season?
I think he wins 2 races.
I don't think he wins any. So
okay.
There's okay.
But let's go with the 2, and let's give Matt his 1. All right, that's 3 race wins right there that you now have to take away from somebody who had wins this year. Does Truex win 7 races next year? I don't know. He's going to be with a brand new crew chief. Maybe he doesn't win 7 times. But then you've got Harvick that only won 3 times this year, and he won 8 the year before. So I just kind of start there and go, if these guys are going to win, then who's going to lose?
Yeah.
And that's a tough one at this level because, Chase Elliott is going to win 3 times again next year, maybe more. I think Kurt Busch gets a win or 2 next year, just like he did this year. Kyle Larson probably is going to start winning, you would like to think. And if he does that, then you've got to start putting that other column together that says, okay, if these guys are all going to start winning, then who's going to start losing?
It is.
And that's when it becomes really tough.
It is, unlike many industries, perhaps, it is a zero-sum game. You know, if somebody wins, those other people have to lose or not win,
right.
I should say. So
one car wins, 38 cars lose.
Right. So it's a fair point. Let's move on. Sherwin, Brittany Force at the Force Racing Christmas party had some fun. Tell us about it.
Did you see this at all, Jeff?
I saw. Was that on the tweet that was out just a little while ago?
I think I sent it out. I may have tagged you in it. I'm not sure. So
I haven't seen it yet. What's going on?
They had the Force Racing party, and of course you understand what I mean. The Forces, they go all in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so Brittany did something funny, and then Courtney decided to say, "Hey, I gotta record this on video and replay it for everybody so that I can post it." So apparently she had like a white powder like dribble or whatever on her shirt. And she had a powdered donut or something earlier that day. Earlier that night, and so she went down to lick it, and it was her deodorant.
Oh no!
Oh boy!
It was very funny.
Oh man, it's you know what, Jeff? It's Christmas party season. Does MRN throw a Christmas party?
They do, but I'm not invited. I'm not even sure what day it is.
Not invited.
I know. I don't know. They'll send me an invite because they will have forgotten. So I'll get, if the party's on Saturday, I'll get my invite in an email on Friday, and they'll be like, "Hey, we're having a party tomorrow. We'd love to have you come down." It's like, okay, well, I live in Michigan, and I'm kidding. Of course, they do have a Christmas party because of the travel for some of us that don't live in the Charlotte area. We typically don't go. But they put on a nice little party.
Well, you know
I
what?
can only imagine that Kimmy
Coon
is pretty fun at that party.
I imagine. You know what, Jeff? I will at least match them, and I will say that the PTM podcast is having a Christmas party tomorrow also, and you're invited. Now, right now, the invitees are me, Sherwin, and you. But at least I can match MRN on that. And if you do happen to fly down to Atlanta tomorrow, we'll make something happen. But there it is. Let's see here.
I know.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the last time I was on, I think we kidded about your Bulldogs and my Spartans.
Not our Bulldogs.
Oh no, your Spartans and your Spartans, as far as we're concerned. So, but yeah.
We're Yellow Jackets down here.
Oh yeah. Two of us Yellow Jackets fans. So Sparty, when it comes to them versus Georgia.
Yeah, well, then you feel my pain if you're Georgia Tech right now, and I'm Spartan. We closed out a bad football season, and now we come out. It's crazy. I'm so ready to embrace basketball, and I'm so ready to embrace the Spartans, and we're off to a slow start. I don't really know how we transitioned over here or how I got you to start talking about Michigan State basketball, but
it's okay.
Hey, you beat Georgia, so you're good with us.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I'm ready to get through that and get on to Daytona. I really am. I am so excited about this season. When you think of all the cool things that happened this past year, and you start looking ahead to 2020, and it's going to be hard, I think, don't you guys? That is it going to be hard to not look past 2020 just because we're all excited about what 2021 might hold in store with a new TV contract, a new race car, probably a significantly changed schedule. I mean, my gosh, it's just a great time to be a NASCAR fan.
Well, so I saw somebody tweet something about that, earlier today, Jeff. It was like, I don't know if I really care about the 2020 season. I'm like, well, the 2007 season wasn't a throwaway because we were going to the car of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So why is 2020 a throwaway? Like,
yeah, who knows? Who knows? There's so much that can happen.
There's still 36 trophies to win and a championship.
And with the storylines that we have between Jimmy, obviously Cole Pern, so something's going to happen with the guy that won all the races this season. There's so many storylines. Chase coming into is this his fourth or third? Fourth.
Fifth. Yep.
Fifth season. I mean, the guys that are coming up, the young guns. You always talk about young guns, but man, there's so much to be excited about this season.
Bell, Reddick, and Custer.
Yes. Holy crap! Yeah. If you're not looking forward to this and the storylines and everything, I think this is a great springboard for what we can look forward to in 2021. But yeah, don't look beyond this. We're gonna have some fun.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that when you have excitement like we had this year, I really do. I thought we had a very good season. It makes you excited about next year. I think if we come out and really start having a great season, we're going to start getting tidbits of information. Rumors will circulate about, hey, did you hear what they might do at that track or this track? Or we might have a combination race with Indy and NASCAR making it up. Suddenly, even though you don't want to, turn your focus from what's at hand to what's to come. But I think that rumor mill is going to generate a lot of that. You and I, we were all talking about Charlotte is a great place to showcase the 2021 car. If they had a tremendous race there, would that do them more good or more harm? In other words, if you see where I'm going, we leave Charlotte for the All-Star race going, that was the greatest All-Star race since Davey Allison, won there back in whatever year it was.
Yeah, law of unintended consequences.
Yeah, now we got to finish out a whole entire season of people going, boy, I can't wait till we get to the new car because this race here at this track is just awful. All right, well, you know what? Hold on, everybody, because to your point, we still have a champion shipped to the side. We still have trophies to give away, and we've got a lot of good storylines going in. I guess that would lead up to the comment I made a moment ago, and it's just a good time to be a NASCAR fan. Get ready for change. Make sure you're there to embrace it, because if you're there to criticize it, it's going to be a long several years for you, because we're going to see change. And you guys know that. I know that. And we may see change on top of change, because if we put something out there that doesn't make sense, there's no reason to stick with it. I think we need to change it. And not always do we find NASCAR fans to be the easiest when it comes to change. There's a lot of very loyal, diehard fans out there that don't like change. But at this day and age, we have to in order to evolve.
Let's close it out on that astute observation. Man, I tell you what, if I had the flu and two knuckleheads called me up and said, let's talk NASCAR for over an hour, I'd tell them to go jump in the lake, Sherwin. So I have got to take the hat off and appreciate that Jeff has come on to talk to us for the time that he gave us. And thank you so much, Jeff. Hey, a couple of quick shout-outs. YouTube new follower, Adam Ellis, thank you for joining along. And happy birthday, Kelly Crandall and Ed Clark, both very well-respected folks in the field, and both PTM alums, Sherwin.
Correct.
That's right. So Ed
Very
Clark
cool.
hanging it up after this season at Atlanta Motor Speedway, or after the maybe even after the February or March race.
Yeah, after the race.
Yeah,
that's his last deal.
And Kelly, can't wait to have her on again. So happy birthday to both of them. Jeff, I already said it. We can't thank you enough for hanging out with us for a little bit, talking NASCAR. The reason we started this podcast is because on about a weekly basis, me and Sherman got together and just started talking about racing, and eventually said, why don't we just record ourselves doing this? And next thing you know, we get to talk to the voice of NASCAR, and we are more than thankful for that. I know we're over Thanksgiving and going into the Christmas season, so this is my I couldn't have a better present, if you will, for Christmas. So thank you for giving that to us. And yeah, looking forward to the next one. Merry Christmas to you and the family, and thank you so much.
Merry Christmas to you guys, and again, I do apologize for probably sounding a little rougher than normal, but thank you for putting up with me. Anytime, I say this to Brandon, I'll say it to you guys, PETM and what you guys do to keep everybody up to speed, gives everybody something to do. They can agree, they can disagree, and that's what it's all about. So thank you for what you guys do, and anytime, I'm happy to join you. Have a wonderful holiday, and we will do it all again in February in Daytona. It'll be here before we know it.
You know it.
Appreciate
you know
it.
Super excited. Ladies and gentlemen, let's close this thing out. Y'all know what the deal is. You can find us, PTMpodcast.com, at PTM Podcast on the Twitter handle. Whoa, goodness, and that decided to be real loud. Hey,
Real
Sydney,
loud, right?
Sydney, calm down just for a second. Let me, let me get
Oh,
this.
by
part.
the way, she's on a movie set right now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Look out.
She's filming a movie. And a big shout out to Brandon Crowd from Lap Traffic. We appreciate his support. And,
and we were on with him and MOATF last week, and we had us an old time. So go listen to that episode. Thank you for hanging out for this episode. Like I tried to do before Sydney decided to get loud there.
yeah. And you can find me at PTM or
You can find us somewhere.
Pregame Engineer and, on the Twitter, and at Andrew L. Sherwin on the Instagram.
Y'all, we'll talk y'all. We will talk y'all next week. We're not leaving yet, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll be right back with you to celebrate the start of 2020.
Yeah, we'll take a couple weeks off.
Yeah, we'll see y'all then. Thanks for hanging out. There it is. Jeff, you still with us?
I am.
My man. We are still live on you.
Sydney Lett?
Go ahead.
Is that Sydney Lett?
That is Sydney Lett, indeed. And by the way, we are still live on YouTube, but we have finished the recorded portion that we're going to put on the internet. But yeah, Sydney Lett, matter of fact.
I met her a couple of weeks ago. Absolutely love that young lady. And I love that song. And I just, heard it as you were closing the show. I'm like, you know what? I know who that is. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm glad you're using that. And I'm sure she is as well.
She, we met her, I think I met her just over Twitter, and she let us use that song, and then she thought it was going to be on an album.
It's funny. This is like Sherwin's telling a multi-year story right now.
Yeah.
Like we met Sydney, had her on the show. She was awesome, up-and-coming country singer. Then she comes up with this We Are NASCAR song, and we're like, that song rules, and kind of halfway asked, how about we use that on our show? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. But Sherwin, you were saying, sorry.
Yeah. She thought it was going to be published on an album and that her label would not allow us to use it. But then they didn't publish that album. So she said, yeah, it's yours. As long as you want to use it, you can have it. And so, yeah, we are very much indebted to Sydney, and she's been a great friend of ours. I've actually been to her parents' house and drank beer in their kitchen.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's
all right.
Fantastic. Yeah.
That ups me. I can't say that I've done that.
Well, I mean, just that Southern hospitality side of it. You just meet somebody and then you just happen to be in their hometown or something, and you're like, hey, I'm kind of bored. I'm on my own in a work deal. What you up to? And why don't you come over to my parents' house, drink beer? Okay.
Yeah, I took a lift to her house and a lift back to my hotel.
Don't be exact, obviously, with this question, but where do her parents live? Because I know she's not originally from Charlotte area, is she?
No, she's from Iowa. They live in upstate North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah. You're right. I remember her telling me that now, that they were from Iowa originally and had spent some time down in Nashville trying to get that deal going, and now just sings whenever she gets the opportunity.
Yeah, I try to promote her stuff every time she puts it out.
She is so much fun on the show too. She just she's got so many stories to tell. Even I never disparage anyone for their age. Because I remember being young and people being like, "You're so young," blah blah blah, and I'm like, "Well, I can't help that I'm young. That's when my parents decided to have a kid."
Right.
So, but
Mm-hmm.
but she has so many stories, I would say, for her age, and she's only 10 years younger than we are, so it's not like I'm.
She's not even.
Again, yeah.
She's 24,
So
I
she's
think.
had okay, so maybe a little more than 10, but she's had so many experiences and stuff, and always has something to say. It's awesome having her on and being able to, like Sherman said, for her just to kind of release a song and say, yeah, go for it, y'all have at it, and we're infinitely indebted to Sydney Ladd.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she just invited me over to her parents' house, like out of the blue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you're here? Okay. Why don't you come up here and have a drink?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Her mom is hilarious, by the way. Stacy Lett, she's a riot.
Jeff, don't let us hang you on any longer. Get you a little bit deeper into that NyQuil, and we'll go a little deeper into the bells here. But
have a great night, you guys.
Jeff, it's been
Thank
fantastic.
you so much,
Thank
Jeff.
you. Thank you. Our hats are off. We're indebted forever for it. Hearing even the flu-ridden voice. Every time I hear your voice, I think that I'm talking. Not that I'm talking to NASCAR like the sanctioning body, but I'm talking to NASCAR. I hope that makes sense in what I'm saying there. But
well,
it's amazing to me.
I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I am just one little piece to that great, big, huge puzzle, but I love what I do. You guys know that. So anytime, happy holidays to anybody and everybody that's still hanging on, and I know they're ready for you guys to start talking some NASCAR. I'll catch up with you two down the road someplace or another.
Jeff, real quick before you go, you are one of the many reasons that makes this podcast go, because people like you say yes.
That's right.
When we ask you to participate.
Yeah.
And without folks like you, we wouldn't be able to have as much fun as we have doing this show.
That's right.
Yeah, well, I'll do it anytime. So,
my man.
I can't speak for everybody else, and I hear you, and I know how they are. I see it every time I'm at a racetrack, those that do and those that don't. And I have always vowed that I will not be one of those that doesn't, and will always try to be one that does. So, plus, you know what? I'm a fan. I'm just like you guys.
I hear you, man.
I'm a fan. I love talking NASCAR. I love it when, I get to share my opinion, and then I really like to hear yours, and I really enjoy it when we don't always agree. And you can have a good, fun debate as to why we like or we don't like this. So anytime, guys, have a great night. Have a super holiday, and again, we'll catch up soon.
All right, Jeff. Thank a lot, man. Take care.
You got it, man.
Get well.
See you guys.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Striegel.
Jeff Striegel.
Wow.
Just another one of the many awesome people in NASCAR that are willing to say yes to do something that really is just not a waste of their time, but it certainly.
It should, you know what? It comes back to people in NASCAR just love talking about NASCAR, and so when you get a chance, hey, let's talk NASCAR for an hour. Now, I did say it, and I meant it. If I was sitting here with the flu, and a couple of idiots wanted to talk to me, I might have to say, look, guys, I got the flu. And listen, if Sherman had walked in and said, Jeff Striegel has the flu, we got to do this solo, I'd be like, I wouldn't be like, that sucks for us. It would be, man, that sucks for Jeff. That's a bummer. I hate that because I know he just got back from Daytona and all that, and he had a blast. I would love to hear what he's got to say, but you would never blame anybody like, oh, dadgummit, Jeff, why'd you get the flu? You don't do that. But for him to come on with, not feeling good, spend an hour and 20 minutes is what the phone call thing said to me.
He just texted me.
It's like, are you kidding me? Man.
He said, thanks for having me. Happy holidays. Jeff Striegel.
You know what? Eat shit, Jeff. Thank you.
What a good dude.
We're on KTM After Dark at this
Yeah,
point.
this is After Dark.
Oh, man.
I mean, god damn. Dude's just, I mean, he's the right dude.
Right? Right? Are we having fun yet, y'all? I am trying to get this thing up on.
Oh, no, it's all good. And I would say the same thing about Ed. When we had our chance to talk to Ed, and I know
get
that
him on again.
yeah,
soon. Off
I,
season, perfect time.
I'll talk to Mandy.
Okay.
The thing of what Jeff closed with was very poignant to me. He said, "I'm a fan. I'm a fan first, and I just happen to have this really cool job." And that's basically what Ed told us when we had a chance to talk to him. He's like,
Yep.
"I love NASCAR, but I have this really cool job being president of Atlanta Motor Speedway."
Yep.
So yeah, I'd love to do a retirement show with Ed Clark, and I think I can make that go.
Dude, yeah, I don't know what to say. Retirement party with Ed Clark. He'll tell us some stuff too, y'all.
Yeah, on his way out, hell. He won't have any reason not to.
Hey, y'all on the YouTube, y'all listen to last week's episode with we did the simulcast or swapcast or whatever you want to call it with Brandon, and it was great to hear from Andrew over at MOATF and across the pond. If you weren't able to see him, holy crap, he said he lost 40 pounds. I think it was 40 pounds. I told him I couldn't even recognize him. It was crazy.
Brandon did?
No, Andrew.
Oh,
over
hell.
at MOATF. Oh, yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah. He looked good.
Yeah, it was awesome. And that's the first thing I said. I am not very nice when it comes to weight stuff like that because I think I observe, I talk, and then I process. So if I see somebody that got like really fat, I'll be like, "Whoa, dude, what you been eating?" Like, that's bad. That's a bad thing. But then when I saw him, and I'm like, "Holy crap, dude, nice work." So it's on the other side of that. I can't. I don't know what to say. I can't hold. I don't know. People have a switch and they're able to not say something, but I got to say something. I don't know.
All right, I got to give a shout out here to KMFR exclamation point at Chopper MF1. That person says, "You know what I like about you guys is you're real people."
You know,
that means more than any kind of compliment that we could receive, to be honest with you.
Well, and it's not like we try to be real people, but we're not. It's more that like I don't
just-
know any other way to be.
There's the only
than what we're
the
doing
only
right
thing
now.
that's different about what we're doing right now is that we're talking a little bit louder to make sure the microphones pick up what we're saying.
Yeah, if you come hang out with us, we're gonna not talk as loud. Well, maybe I will after I've been drinking. But
Well, I will too.
But maybe we don't talk as loud. But the only other thing is that we've gotten a good idea of how to keep a conversation going while we're talking on the mic so that there's no long pauses. But if you put us around a campfire, we'll go right back to what we were before, which is like somebody says something and everybody kind of like nods their head and takes a sip of beer, takes a sip of beer, and then somebody else says something novel, and then everybody does the same thing and sit around and drink a beer for a second, and then, well, I got this to say. All right, go ahead. Like it's a little bit different in that respect, but otherwise, I mean, you are hearing what you'd hear if you just sat and hang out with us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, this is. Yeah, if y'all come find us in the campsite at a race that we're at, this is what you're going to get. It just we won't yell at you,
right? Well, again,
we might after a few beers,
but that's just what happens.
But yeah, that's kind of part of the game. But everybody knows that when you drink, you start talking louder because you can't hear as good, and that's how it goes. But this is us, man. That's why every single person that has come to our campsite, and it doesn't matter what racetrack we've been to.
Well, you're gonna have fun.
Like we don't. nobody leaves because they aren't having fun. They leave because they have to go home.
Oh, you got called out on the YouTube for by Jumpy Bob. Well, I'm not trying to tell on people, but for being four eyes tonight.
Oh yeah. Well, my eyes have been bothering me a lot. So
you took the contacts out. With
yeah,
the
glasses are
I don't
working
know,
better.
Did we start? I think we started the podcast just after I got glasses. I think.
Probably sounds about right.
Yeah, that sounds about right, which reminds me I need to go back to the eye doctor again, get, re-upped or whatever it is.
Well, I need to get them to figure out what the hell's wrong with my eyes, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I've always been a contacts guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I've seen you in glasses maybe, if I've seen you 10,000 times in my life, however many of that minus 5 is how many with glasses.
Yeah. No, yeah. And that's a good figure. Too, because that's about right. Because I've been in contacts since I was 11.
Yeah, I've only been wearing glasses for the last several years. I'll tell you what it was I knew I needed glasses. Shoot, in college, here's the thing. In college, I did really well in college. Whatever, nerd, call it whatever you want. But I always sat front and center. And the main reason was because I can't see the damn board if I was in the second row. I couldn't see what the professor was writing on the board. So I would sit front and center.
Right.
Well, when you sit front and center, you can't fall asleep. The professor notices who you are. They know. So, it worked out for me. So I got all this positive feedback for having poor eyesight. So I just never went to the eye doctor.
Right.
Because I was like, oh, I'm good. Everything's working out. Well, so what got me to the eye doctor was finally I was driving at night. And I might have told this before, but I saw a billboard, and it looked pretty cool. Like, it had all these colors and all this stuff, and I'm like, I wonder what that billboard says. And I drove by it, and I went, oh, hell. I have no idea what that billboard just said.
Yeah.
And I'm driving at night, and I can't read the billboard. All right, so I went and got glasses. Or I went to the eye doctor a week later, and he pretty much looked at me like, it was kind of funny, because he was like, okay, we're going to put you in glasses. And I'm like, okay, so is this like a reading thing? He's like, no, it's an always thing. I'm like, gotcha. Okay, so that's how it is now. I need to do that. He's like, yeah, you need to be, what the hell, dude? He's like, did you pass the driver's exam? Here's the weird thing. I went back to renew my license in 2018. So last year, I went and renewed my license. And I think I've told this one too. But I'm reading the thing, for the because I had eyeglasses on when I walked in. And she said, well, your current license says you don't have glasses. I said, yeah, I got glasses since then. She goes, okay, well, take them off and read what you see. And I said, like, B, C, A3, A3C. And she goes, okay, there's no numbers in the thing.
There are no numbers.
And I said, and here's how they do it at the DMV. I said, okay, we'll change all the 3s to an 8 or to a B, I guess. That's the way I put it. Because I didn't care. I've got glasses. I'm like, if you want to put I've got glasses on there, I don't care. I said, okay, change all the 3s to a B. And she goes, okay. She types it up. She goes, all right, we'll just put that you don't need glasses on the on your license. So according to my driver's license, I don't require spectacles. And that's just the DMV. I don't know if they were throwing me a bone. I don't care at this point.
Oh, mine's had requires whatever. Let me look at it and see what it says.
Oh yeah. Now, by the way, my I'm not trying to flex here, but my pilot's license says must have corrective lenses.
I think that's what it says.
Requires corrective lenses. But my driver's license says, hey, drive on, brother.
Oh, restriction B. Corrective lenses required.
Yeah. I could show you. I could pull out my pilot's license, but my driver's license, no restrictions. You can do whatever you want. But the other one, they're a little more restrictive on that one. They do an actual eye test, and they're, he's looking at me, and I'm doing the same thing. B, 3, 8, 7, and he goes, okay, put your glasses on. I'm like, oh, it was an A, not a B. And he's like, yeah, corrective lenses required, I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I've got them, whatever. But
Well,
yeah,
that's the wild part about it is, like I said, I've been in contact since I was 11,
mm,
and I couldn't read the bottom row, but I could read the second from the top almost every appointment once I got
Yeah.
the right lenses. Like 2010, both eyes, boom,
yeah,
crushed it.
yeah.
But without them, I'm north of 2100 in both eyes.
Yeah. I think I was about 2040 or 2060. So I'm not like, I'm not like Coke bottle glasses or nothing crazy. I do have like astigmatism, which I thought was like some horrific disease or something, but all it means is that like your eyeball is slightly tilted, like rotated.
Oh, yeah, it means your lens is not perfectly
Right, it's not
spherical.
Well, your lens is
or
usually like a
whatever.
football shape, and it goes like this. And if it's slightly like tilted, you have astigmatism. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I have a slight one, but it never. I mean, I've always been able to wear nearsighted correction.
Yeah, yeah. Sarah says
As
she
opposed
knows
to
a guy legally blind in Missouri, got a driver's license in Texas with like no restrictions. So there you go. Drive in Texas all you want. Just stay between the lines.
Yeah, I mean, it is 897 miles from Texarkana to El Paso.
And then boys are thirsty in Atlanta. So I did take advantage of it a couple times. Like when me and Sherwin are driving to a racetrack, like say we're going to Talladega and it's in the evening and we're going west from Atlanta, straight out I-20 direct west. I'll put on sunglasses without eyeglasses on, just so that I'm not squinting like crazy. And then what's funny about that, what's ironic or whatever, is I'm squinting because I can't see. So I'm squinting either way.
Right.
But one is with sunglasses and one is with eyeglasses. So I don't know which one's better. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I got to take a pee break, which means we ought to just close this thing down. So
Probably a good idea.
thank you for joining. Thank you, Jeff Striegel. I know we can sit there and stroke each other's egos for the end of the podcast for like 15 minutes straight, but holy crap, for somebody like him, like you said, to say yes as much as the folks do, we can't thank him enough. And hey, wishing all y'all happy holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And we will be back with you next week for sure.
All right.
Thumbs up.
And I will be working on a guest between now and then.
Sounds
so we'll
perfect.
see how it goes.
We'll have some fun. See y'all later.